Okay, welcome back everybody. This week we are doing the implementation of your controllers. I'm going to give you an example of a basic controller again. Um, I know a lot of you are struggling with Java, so I'm going to also post some resources that are introductions to Java so you can understand syntax, understand what it is I'm doing. I'm going to try and explain what I'm doing as best I can as I go through this video though, so that should hopefully help you. In our model view controller design, the model is going to be the objects. The controller is going to be all of the logic that happens when any objects interact. And the view is what is going to be calling the different controller methods. The views kind of take on a bigger role than it normally would in an MVC application in our application, but that is all right. I'll even give you an example of how the view is used in another video this week so you can start thinking about how you might design your controller methods since you may want to change some of those, which is fine. So my battle controller, I know I have a player and I have a zombie. I'm going to have a couple different methods that have these two objects interact. So we'll call the first I'm going to leave this void for now. I might come back and change it. But I'm going to call this attack zombie. And so I'll need the player, and I'm going to just have that be P. And I can either pass in the zombie here or the location here. To make things easier on my view, no, never mind. I'm going to pass in the zombie. And of course, it's going to give me an error because I have to import these into this class. Nope. And of course, that means it's going to be confusing for me. Okay. In this case, what I want to do is I want the player to do damage to the zombie based on the player's damage. And I'm going to create a different method for when the player attacks with an item. So let's just say it's going to use the player's damage. So we have to get that damage. So let's make an integer. Player damage. It's going to get the player. And it looks like I'm missing something from my model. I want the player to have a int that is max damage, and maybe they can do 10 damage max. Oh, that was the wrong keyword. Okay, so back in my, so again, I'll try to explain what I'm doing. Making this a public variable, not making it a variable at all, actually I'm making it a final, which means it can't be changed. And static, which means I can access this without having an instance of the player class. So I can refer to this without ever creating a player. And then it's an integer that's named max damage. It's all caps because it's a final, and its value is 10. And so back to the battle controller, I'm going to just, since I don't need that instance, I'm just going to do the max damage. And remember, I had an example in the previous post about mass random method, and that's going to return a value between 0 and 1. So if I multiply max damage by a number between 0 and 1, it's going to be some percentage of that max damage that gets created. However, I don't want the player to ever do 0 damage, so I'm going to go ahead and add 1 to this. And then I really need to make my max damage 9 if I want it between 1 and 10, because this will return a integer between 1 and 9, and then I can add the 1. Or 0 and 9, and then I can add the 1. So it's complaining now, though, because I'm doing math mixing doubles and integers. So I need to cast this to an int to make my compiler happy. So now that I have the player damage, I can apply that damage to the zombie. So I can say the zombie, I have a method already that's apply damage, but let's say I didn't have this method. I would get the hit points and subtract the player damage. Now this doesn't do anything. This will do the math, but it doesn't assign it anywhere. So what I need to do is set the hit points to the zombie's hit points minus the player damage. So whatever they previously had, subtract the player damage, and then set that to what they will now have after this method is called, or after this line is run. And then I can check to see if the zombie's been defeated. And maybe that's what I actually want to return. So let's actually make this return a Boolean. And I'll return, well, again, I'll show you an if condition. If the zombie get hit points is less than or equal to 0, so if the zombie's hit points, this instance of the zombie's hit points, are less than or equal to 0, then I'm going to return true. The zombie was defeated. Otherwise, let's return false. So this is my method that's going to apply damage to the zombie from the player. I'm going to go ahead and Java dock it. So Java docking, zombie without an item. This allows me to, in other places, the IDE will tell me what this method does exactly. And again, I can show you a really quick example of that. In this method, I'll call public junk or void junk. Just really quickly, I'll create a battle controller. And then you can see if I do attack zombie, it has all this information about it that it wouldn't have if I didn't add those Java doc comments. So useful to have, especially when you're working with other people. So this is my attack zombie method. I'm going to implement two other methods really quickly, and then I'll explain what they do. Okay, so I implemented two additional methods really quickly. One is the attack player method. It's the inverse of the attack zombie method. So this would be the zombie attacking the player. So I calculate the zombie damage in the same way I calculate the player damage, but instead of using the zombie max damage, I've used the method I wrote in my model that's going to make this call a little bit easier. And then I apply the same logic. So again, just another really quick method. And then I added a third method, attack zombie with item. This method takes a player, zombie, and the item that the player is going to be using to attack with. I calculate the player damage the same way I usually do, except for I also add the hit points of the item. I reduce the durability of the item, and in this case, if the durability of the item drops below 0 or to 0 or below 0, I want to remove the item from the player's inventory. So I'm going to do that by getting all the items of the player's inventory and removing this particular one. I'm going to return true in that case, because this check is a little bit more difficult to do outside in the view than the check to see if a zombie's been defeated or not. And then I'm always going to return false. Oh, I found a bug already. If I return before I damage the zombie will never get damaged. So I better do that up here. So that's basically what you're going to be doing for the controller methods. Do whatever you're comfortable with. Again, try and get as much as you need for the game. Think of any menu item that the game could possibly, the player could possibly take, or the game's going to show the player. Pretty much it should be about a one-to-one from the player's options in the game menu to the controller methods. The only exceptions are going to be like show, help menu. There doesn't need to be a controller method that shows the help menu. But if the player's ever moving, you need a controller method. If they're purchasing something, you'll want a controller method. Any menu item that the player will see should likely be associated with a controller method. If you need help deciding what does and does not, let me know. Shoot me an email with your thoughts, and I'll hopefully validate that. I'll talk about adding JUnit test cases in the next video, which I will get going on now.